the more of a caricature the person is, and thank God most of the guys in wrestling from that era are caricatures one way or another. The more of a caricature they are, the easier it is to channel them.
I really like that Lanny Poffo. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do a Lanny Poffo impression.
No, really? Oh, he's one of my favorites to do.
Yeah.
And I've never seen Antonino Rocco's penis, but I hear it's fantastic.
Welcome to Smores Indoors and the most unique movie collector interview series here on YouTube, The Collector's Inquisition. I am Corey, your host, and it is pack week here on Smores Indoors. And when I'm talking about the pack, there's only one pack, of course. It's the Rad Pack. And for this episode, I have, of course, you know this guy from his channel, Born2BeRad. He goes by the Rated G Superstar, I'm told. He is Garrett. Garrett, what's going on?
What is up, Corey, man? Thanks for having me, dude. The Rated G Superstar is here.
Nice. Good to have you finally. We've been trying to get together for a long time, it feels like, but finally got something going here. So
the contracts were made, the takeover begun, so we made it work, yeah, man.
That's right. Oh, it's good to have you. And I know most people are familiar with your channel if they're watching this, but for anybody that might be watching that isn't, why don't you take a couple seconds here and tell everyone about your channel?
Sure, man. It's Born2BeRad. Basically, we just do anything physical media on nostalgia, mostly 80s and 90s based. And we just kind of try to break that nostalgia out from our childhoods and kind of just talk about some things that maybe we're all basically interested in. So we can go anywhere from pop culture, music, movies, and horror is a big thing on my channel as well. So if you like any of that stuff, make sure to check it out. I'm always doing cool collabs with some people. Like you might see me with Dead Pit, and then I'll do some stuff with the Rad Pack. So definitely keep your eyes over here because we got a lot of stuff coming for the month.
Awesome. You do some awesome content over there, and I've been excited to see you've really been blowing up here lately, especially after the Horror YouTuber of the Month thing. You've really picked up steam. So it's been awesome to see.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And, I'm sure if people don't know, you and I have known each other before I even jumped on YouTube. It was kind of like a precursor to YouTube way back. It's probably even a lot longer than I think it is. What do you think the years were when we did the WrestleManiac show?
Man, I was looking. I can't believe this. It's been like 7 years ago we were doing that.
Isn't that crazy?
It's insane.
It's crazy. So, that was really my introduction to any kind of on video recording or anything like that when it came to talking on YouTube. And Wes kind of brought us both in. And when we had the pandemic in 2020, I had bought all this equipment for my business, and I was like, you know what? I've got a little extra time. I've got all this stuff that I've been collecting my whole life. I'm like, and people have been saying, you should have a channel. You should have a channel. I was like, let me try this out. And getting into it kind of late in the game, I knew I had to kind of come out with some fire. I knew I had to try to be a little bit different or do things a different way because there's just so much out there now. I was watching it for years and years and been telling myself I should have done a channel probably 10 years ago. And it was just, it was always one excuse after another. And finally, when I did it, I'm like, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I gotta just start out hot to try to gain, people's eyes and stuff like that. So, man, when did you start your channel? Were you doing stuff when we were doing the WrestleManiac show or no?
No, not really. I did a little here and there, just not seriously pre-pandemic. But once that, I always wanted to do some kind of podcast thing. Mm-hmm. And once that pandemic hit and I was kind of home more, I was like, well, this is really perfect timing for me. And Jonathan, who's Mr. Bombastic, who's on my channel a lot, I found him through Piz. He was doing one of his patron streams and found out that we live like an hour apart.
Oh, wow.
So we kind of hooked up and, we go out and do stuff physically outside of YouTube. Wow. But, awesome. We started the show together and had a good time with it. So it's been a good time. It was like really good through the pandemic to kind of get your mind off of all the craziness going on for sure. So
definitely, but that's cool, man.
Yeah. But I also wanted to say, since you've been kind of coming up, you know, I wouldn't do this for any guest. Here at Smores Indoors, we've kind of scraped together some money and felt you needed a bodyguard for this show. So I hired the best money could buy. So let's bring him in right now. It is Boone the baboon from Unmasking the Idol. So,
dude, I cannot wait to get that. Did you watch the stream when we talked about that?
Yeah.
Dude, what is the deal with that thing? It's like a chimp with like a baboon with like a V-neck. I don't know if it's like a gi or if it's like a t-shirt or something. Man, I cannot wait till I get that movie. I've never seen it, but I told the guys at Deadpan, I'm like, we have to do like a live like commentary because I'm dying to see what the heck this thing is about.
That's the one with Dan Spivey too, right?
That's right. Dangerous Dan Spivey. You know, the old Gary Michael Capetta.
Yeah.
You know, announcing. Killer, man. I can't wait to check it out.
And Dan Spivey was Waylon Mercy, kind of the precursor to Bray Wyatt. So
that's right. Kind
of interesting. So, but anyway, Boone will be watching over us here. Make sure no one comes in for a run in or something. So.
Yeah, we're gonna protect the pack, man. You know,
there you go.
We're trying to do some big things over here. But anyway, I love the shirt, dude. Love it, especially in the white. The white's nice. I haven't seen the white really.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. So
I like that.
There's a little printing issue on it, but they're sending me a new one, but it works. So
that's killer, dude.
But yeah, it's good to have you. Are you ready to take on the Inquisition here?
I'm always ready.
All right. Well, let's start it off with number 1. What's your first number?
I don't really have like a favorite number or anything, so let's just say, I don't know, 12.
Okay. So what are some of your favorite media-related YouTube channels?
Oh, cool, man. You know, there's so many out there, and I feel like, especially now that I'm on it, I don't know if you know, but like when people subscribe to you, like you got to really kind of dig deep sometimes and figure out like who it is, right? Like it doesn't just pop up. It used to, but not anymore. So a lot of times,
some people can subscribe kind of anonymously or not anonymously.
Yeah, because all of a sudden I'll see my numbers like moving, but I'll be like, who's subbing to me? You know, like I know you can go and look at your subscribers and stuff like, but usually what I'll do is I'll try to if they're a creator, I'll try to sub back just because again for support. They're supporting me, I'm gonna support them. But you know what ends up happening sometimes is that my feed gets really just loaded with like tons of videos from like everybody, so it's hard for me to really scrape through and find you know who I'm looking for. But I mean, I have to say, if between work, family, me doing this, I don't get to watch as much, but I always seem to check out Christian Hanna. So if you know CHH, like he's always kind of pops up in my feed. I don't know if it's because I watch his content regularly, but he's always someone I end up checking out. I'll check out Pizowl, obviously Dead Pit. I'll check out what they're doing. If you guys know My Killer Podcast and Movie Watch Daily, who are also the part of the Rad Pack with me, I'll always check out their stuff too. And then the other one that I'll say as well is I always catch Ken Mid-Level Media. So those are the ones I'm really watching now on a regular. But there are so many out there, and I try my best to, you know, if I have the time, check out other people's stuff. Like I've watched your shows with Dan and all that other stuff. And we were just talking about that. I watched a show with Schneeberger, which was cool to see because I was a big fan of Beyond the Realms way back in the day. So when I saw he was on, I was like, oh, sweet. He got Jason on. All right, I'll watch this. So yeah, I try my best to get, but those are going to be like the top, 6 that I just mentioned that I watch on a regular, but there's a lot of people out there, a lot of good people that I try to catch. If I see they're live and I'm driving home from work or something, I'll pop in and just show my support or whatever. But man, you know what's funny? We talked about, you know, us kind of getting into it around a little bit more around the pandemic in 2020. Right. I feel like a lot of people did, like Dead Pit came back around that time. And it just seems like, and I'm not even going to go by age here because some of us are older than others that are starting this out now.
Right.
But I almost feel like there's like, you know, talking about wrestling and stuff, like to me, this is like the new generation in a sense where like there's a whole crop of new people like just hit the scene strong. And it's really cool to see, especially now with streaming. Like it's so killer to see people collabing like all the time. Like it's just, I think it's just great for the community in general, because back in the day, I think I was watching like, the same 5 or 6 channels over and over again, but it is so many people out there now, and everybody's kind of intertwined with each other. So if you check out like your channel where it says like other people subscribe to, and it's always like that core group of people that, you're usually with. So, yeah, man, I know that was kind of a long-winded answer, but it just shows like how much is out there right now, in that like more movie/physical media community.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Jason Beyond the Realms. I've known him for a long time now, and always loved his channel. I wish he'd come back and do some stuff, but I know he's got to have his heart into it to do that. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm going to get him back on in October to do kind of a Halloween recommendation show. So that'll be fun.
Do you want me to give you something you can try it for? I tried, it didn't work, but maybe you can get it on. Okay. You got to get B Junior on here.
Okay.
Do you remember Barry? Do you remember him?
Yeah.
He was big around that time too. He was somebody I was always watching. And I remember messaging him on I think it was like my 1,000 stream show. And I said, dude, do you want to come in and just do like a guest appearance? And he was like, oh, I don't know. And it's just sad because he was such a big influence on me back in the day, because he was one of the people I was watching on a regular. And just to see that he's totally not in the community anymore, as far as like on YouTube and stuff, it's just would be cool to kind of see him make a little resurgence again. So that might definitely be somebody to try to reach out to. We know Smores Indoors has got the big money, so maybe you can convince them to
dig a little deeper into the couch and see what they can find.
I love it.
All right, number 2.
Let's do 28.
All right. Have you ever changed someone's mind about a movie?
Oh, geez. I recommend a lot of movies that people don't necessarily like, but as far as have I changed their mind on it? That's a really good question. Let's think. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to always bring up this one because I do it a lot. Firstborn is one that I absolutely just love, and I push it down everybody's throat every time I have the opportunity to. And I know a lot of people had kind of been like, oh, I'd seen it in the past, but I didn't really think much of it. And I'm like, you got to watch it again. You got to watch it again. And when they've watched it a second time, they're like, oh man, that is a real cool movie. And it's just Peter Wello's performance in it. It was just untouchable. Like, I think that's his best role, in my opinion. I met him a couple months ago. And, everybody's going up and getting RoboCop stuff done. And I went up to him and I was like, hey, man, I just want to give you props on, like, Firstborn. Like, I absolutely love it. And Peter Weller is the type of guy where, like, he's got, there's a lot of times that people say, like, oh, he came off really off-putting, or he's one of those ones that you got to kind of be, like, catch him at the right time kind of thing. Right. And when I said that, his face like got really excited, and he like shook my hand. He's like, hey, thank you so much. Like, no one ever talks about that. Like, hey man, thank you again for saying that. And I was like, oh, no problem. And I had a great experience meeting him, where I know a lot of times people don't. And I don't know if it was just maybe no one ever talks about that movie. And it was nice to see maybe somebody else mentioned something besides RoboCop. But that's one I will just throw out there. But as far as anything else that I can think off the top of my head, I don't know. But yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough to change people's minds on a lot of stuff nowadays.
Yeah, definitely. On anything.
It's true. It's true. You are right.
Yeah. All right. Number 3.
Let's do 45.
All right. Does being a fan of something help define who you are?
I think sort of. I mean, depends on what it is. I think when it comes down to just, owning it, being yourself, I'm really big on what you see is what you get kind of thing in some aspects, where it's like, in one side of the coin, like I'm a fitness professional and I could act one way, but, most people that I'm around on a regular basis know, I love 80s. I love horror movies. I love this. I love that. And, some people would kind of shy away from like that side of it and just be like, oh no, I'm going to just be Mr. Professional over here. Right. Which, I do a pretty good job blending it. But at the same time, like, I think it's important that people really just know you and exactly, what you're into, because you'd be surprised on how many people out there feel or enjoy the same things you do, but kind of sit in the same boat where it's like, I'm not going to talk about it outside my house kind of thing. Because, man, I can't tell you how many people that like I train, like clientele who look at me as like, their fitness trainer and their coach and all that stuff will message me about Cobra Kai, like for the whole weekend. Basically it's on. It's like I become the Cobra Kai guy. Like everybody wants to be like, oh, did you watch it? What do you think of this? And it's because, they know that's what I'm probably doing that weekend. But so when it comes to being a fan should define you, I don't, depends on what that question is trying to get in detail. But I think as a whole, I think you should really just own it, because that makes you, unique.
Yeah. And you never know, like letting yourself out there someone may know someone that opens doors to someone famous. They know that you could interview or something. You never know. So.
It's totally true. And even when it comes to my business, right? Like I look at it and, I do some online fitness and stuff like that too. But, I've had people that found out that I do fitness stuff. Like I haven't talked about it too much on YouTube yet. Just because it's not something this to me is like I don't have to think about anything but what I'm doing right here. Like work right now is on hold. Family right now is on hold. And it's like, hey, I'm just going to get in and do this. This is like my hangout time. I don't see a lot of my friends anymore since having a kid and the pandemic and stuff. So this is my hangout. I was hanging out with you guys and the people in the chat. And some of the people that have found out that I did fitness have reached out to me and been like, hey, I've wanted to get in better shape. I've wanted to start a fitness program for a long time, but the gym isn't my thing, or I feel intimidated going in because I'm not really sure what I'm doing. But, is there anything that you can do to help me? Because, we seem very similar. And that's huge for me, because I think that, once people know that, I mean, if there's people out there that feel that way, like I would love to be the person that can help them get where they want to go and them feel comfortable. Like, hey, this dude's like me. He's not like what I think I'm going to get if I walk into a gym and try to do, something that I'm not really comfortable with. I don't want to be looked at as this. So I think what you said, it could open doors for possibilities for a lot of different things. So as much as I haven't really exposed that too much, probably the biggest one is going to be right here on this show. But so I think that's a big thing, because I think that's another way to help the community as well. And people look up to me for stuff like that, because everybody can be better. I can be better, and we've got nice stuff here, man. And we got to live long enough to enjoy it.
For sure. That it kind of brings up a story kind of early on this show. A lot of people know I write for a newspaper. That's kind of been my job for several years. But I was talking to this person I was interviewing about a story, and they're like, well, a friend of mine was involved in some movies, and it kind of connected us. And it was the writer and producer of Hoosiers and Rudy. So got to interview him on Smores Indoors. So
that's awesome, man. Exactly. Like you said, it does really open. So, hey, I totally even forgot, dude, the reason me and Wes became friends at all was due to that. I used to listen to Dead Pit. I don't know how you guys were buddies. Was it through Dead Pit, or was it from something else?
It's funny, like later, almost when they were shutting down shop at 2015, I started watching because I kind of found Piz at some point, and how everything kind of snowballs. But I was watching the WrestleManiacs, and I messaged Wes about maybe being on sometime. And he's like, yeah. So
okay, yeah, because I can remember when he said, "Hey, I'm going to bring my buddy Corey on."
Yeah.
I just thought maybe you guys were either friends for a while, but that's how I kind of got mixed in the equation. Is I was watching Dead Pit. I know all those guys, Piz and Jay the Stingray, and everybody from the message boards, but I was very like, I'm going to look at the message boards and see what's going on in here, but I never posted in there ever. So to those guys, I probably didn't exist, but I knew who they were because I was always kind of on the outside looking in just to see what was going on in there, but wasn't really active in it at all. So there was one show, I think, where Wes talked about wanting to get a little bit healthier and stuff like that. And I reached out to him and just said, hey, I listened to the show, blah, blah. Like, I'm a fitness trainer and fitness coach, and, let me know what you're looking for, and I'll be happy to give you some pointers and tips. And we had a long conversation and did a lot of touch basing through the process and stuff. And he ended up losing 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And that's we became really close friends through that.
Yeah.
And then when he was starting up the WrestleManiac show, because Dead Pit had kind of closed up and he was looking for an outlet to kind of get back in, and he was like, I'll do wrestling and stuff. And that's where I came in because he knew I was such a big fan of wrestling. So it, like you said, it did open a lot of doors, because now, you know, coming on here and doing a lot of stuff with them, it was like, if you would have asked me 10, 12 years ago, I would have, this wouldn't even have made sense to me at all. You know, that I would be on YouTube and doing shows with the dudes I was listening to for, like, you know, since 2007 or whatever it is. So,
Sure.
But
Cool.
yeah.
All right. Number 4.
We'll go 11.
All right. What's your favorite documentary?
Woo, I love documentaries, man. Absolutely love them. Favorite. Let's see. I know what? I would probably say, I think my favorite is probably that Elm Street one.
Okay.
What was that one called there? The big one.
Never Sleep Again, is that?
Yeah, I would probably say that's my favorite, I think, overall. You know, I love the Friday the 13th one. I'm actually a bigger Friday the 13th fan than Freddy, but I like the Nightmare one, I think, more.
Okay.
You know, but I'm also big on like sports documentaries. I love you know, I'm big on any documentaries. I've been watching those In Search of Darkness, and I just got which one did I get? In Search of, it was the sci-fi one. They just came out with, and I thought it was really cool too, because I'm not really, really strong in the sci-fi genre. Like, I know a lot, but not as much as I would in the horror. So the horror ones were cool because I was like, oh, this is cool, but I know like all these movies. The sci-fi one was really intriguing to me because it opened my eyes to a lot of stuff that I had never seen before. So I really enjoyed that one as well.
Yeah. I know documentary for me, I've said it before, is up there really close to one of my favorite genres, because a good documentary is some of the most compelling content you can watch, I feel like. So, yeah.
What's one of your favorites?
You know, I'm a big true crime guy. ESPN did a 30 for 30. It's like a 7-hour one on the OJ, the whole OJ thing. And it goes all the way back to him in college and going through the whole thing. And it was just really interesting. I love that one. And there's one that it's on Criterion. It's The Thin Blue Line is a great one too. So
yeah, man.
Recommend those too.
I love docs. I mean, even little ones. Like, I have this one called, I'm a big poster collector. So I have this documentary called like 24 by 36, and it's about like the poster collecting. I think that's a great one. 30 for 30, man. Like, I will sit there and binge watch those all day.
Yeah.
Like, I love those. That they did one on like Orlando Magic, which was huge for me as a kid, and I absolutely loved that one. They did some cool one on Bo Jackson, and you know, you look at that now, and as a kid, you're like, well, Bo Jackson's the man, blah blah. But when you look at it now, you're like, man, that guy was like unreal. Like, some of the stuff you think about, like, what could have been with that dude? Like, he was almost like abnormally great at like everything.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just remember back in the day, him, he would do that thing where if he would strike out, he'd break the bat over his leg.
Oh, yeah.
And I would try to do that with the broom in the kitchen, you know, like, oh, I'm going to do it. No, just have a big bruise.
Oh, yeah. I mean, did he, was it him? He did it over his head or something once. You remember that?
Yeah, he did that.
That's insanity, man.
God.
Like, what a beast. Like, there was something where they showed where he ran like up the wall and like caught the ball. Like,
yeah,
you don't see that stuff anymore. It's like, it's crazy. He was a freak.
He was.
All right, let's go 7.
Okay. Name a movie that is considered a classic that you haven't seen.
Oh, dude, easy. Indiana Jones. I haven't seen any of them.
Okay. I think I remember hearing you say that.
It's almost become a joke at this point. I do not know how that slipped by, because, like, I mean, that was the prime of my childhood, and my brother and I were watching everything at that point, and for some reason, it just never crossed our paths. And even he even says to this day, like, I still haven't seen it. I'm like, me either. And I've had the DVD box set for probably, I don't know, 20 years, and it's still sealed over there in the other room. I just bought the damn 4K steels, and I said, all right, now's the time that I'm going to get these things done. But my brother's like, well, if we're going to do it, let's make it like a video or something. Let's do something, because it's almost like laughable at this point in time that we've never seen these movies. So I've got them again. I've got the 4Ks.
You know what's a real shame is that you haven't seen those, but you have seen Ebola syndrome.
That is true. I have now seen Ebola syndrome, but I have not seen Indiana Jones.
You're gonna take your 80s credit card away.
Oh my God. I know it. Tell me about it. It's like I should have watched it at this point, but my brother keeps saying, don't. At this point, you can't do it unless you make a big deal about it. I'm like, I guess.
You have to wait till Harrison Ford dies.
Man, I mean, at this point, it might happen.
Maybe.
Jeez.
All right, number 6.
Let's do number 6.
Okay. What is your favorite Criterion release? Do you have one?
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. No doubt. Love that movie. Probably my favorite comedy of all time, I would say. It's just something about it, the time frame, the music, the mall. Absolutely love it. I loved it since I was a kid. And what I love about the Criterion release is that we finally got that TV cut, and that's the way I remember it as a kid. Mm-hmm. And I ended up having the TV cut on like a bootleg DVD forever because you just couldn't get it. So I don't know where I got it. There used to be a site online called iOffer. I don't know if you remember that place. They used to sell like a lot of bootlegs like way back in the day. I think it's probably shut down by now, but I ended up finding it on there because there's different scenes. There's different scenes that you don't get in the finished product, like important scenes. And some of the dialogue is switched, obviously, because they had to get rid of some swears and stuff. And I find it actually pretty comedic on some of the splices that they did when it was supposed to be a swear and they pick something else. Like that always makes me laugh. I think Scarface is like one of the best when it comes to that. When what does he say on Scarface? Oh, he says, "Where'd you get that scar on your face? Eating pineapple?" Like why? Oh, yeah. Why did they choose that? Like, like why was that the answer? Eating pineapple? Like we must have been so rough with it. Scarred his face up. But Fast Times did some good ones. No, he just scraped it and then like hit the thing. But I always thought that was so funny. So I love getting TV cuts when they do that because it's funny to me just to see like what they use in place. And like something like Fast Times, like they had to film I don't know if they filmed specific stuff for the TV or they just edited scenes in, but there's some important scenes in there, man, that are not in the finished product. So if you guys don't have that on Criterion, I definitely recommend it.
Are you a Criterion guy? Otherwise, do you get much? Not much.
Not really. I mean, I'll get stuff if it's like movies I know I love, but I mean, there's so much Criterion of stuff that could be great, but I don't have the time or space or anything to just kind of guess anymore. So unless like I catch it somewhere and I'm like, oh my God, that was amazing, then I'll probably pick it up. But my blind buying comes from like Vinegar Syndrome and all that stuff. So I can't do that with everything or I won't have any room left. But so not really. I have like a lot of just like the classics, in my opinion, like a lot of the 80s stuff. So how about you? Are you?
I'm kind of like you, I've got the few horror titles they put out and like those 80s things, Breakfast Club, Fast Times, stuff like that. So occasionally, like I said, the Thin Blue Line, they do have some docs there that I know of that I like. So just kind of depends on what they put out. So, but I don't deep dive into blind buys with them. So.
It could get very slippery too because there's so much, right? Like of all genres too, so you don't even know sometimes what you're getting. But yeah, it's a good question. Let me think. She's only 17. Let's do 17.
Do you remember what the first 4K you bought was?
Oh man. What was the first 4K? I remember the freaking first DVD I bought, 4K. I'm going to say it might have been maybe Halloween, the first time it came around, I think. Okay. That could have been it. That was one of my early ones, I believe. Yeah, let's say that one, because that was pretty early on.
Yeah, that was probably one of the early ones I got too. Honestly.
Isn't that crazy that like nowadays things you just take everything for granted? Where back then I'm like, I know the first 5 DVDs I ever bought because it was like, but now I don't know what the heck I'm getting anymore.
Well, it was a different time too. I feel like I was talking with Jason, when DVD hit, that was right about the time I had the first like adult job. So I remember like being able to drop some money on some stuff. So yeah.
Exactly.
All righty. Number 8.
Let's do, did I do 10?
No.
All right, let's do 10.
Number 10. All right. What's the best looking Steelbook you've ever seen?
Ooh, best looking. I will give. You know what? I'm gonna probably say. I'll probably say the American Psycho is probably up there if I can think off the top of my head. Just because the American Psycho, the poster art to me wasn't the greatest for that movie. Like it wasn't anything that really stood out to me. So to have that with that like slip and his face, like I just feel like that was such a great addition, a great look for that, because I don't think it's had anything that cool as far as any kind of cover art. So I'll probably go out on the limb and say American Psycho is definitely top 3 if I can remember.
Yeah, I'm not a big Steelbook guy, but that was one that I had to get for sure. And because the Steelbooks that's another slippery slope that
it is. I collect steels, but I don't collect them just to have them, right? So like I'll collect Steelbooks if like, let's say like Lost Boys is coming out. So I have the option. What do I do here? It's like my favorite movie. Do I buy the Zavi Steelbook with a box over it? Do I buy the regular? So I got the steel just because, I had the option. I chose. If Best Buy's doing, buy Gremlins in 4K or an exclusive steel, I bought the exclusive steel. But, I'm not buying like what just came out, like The Warrior. That's a good movie, but I have the Blu-ray and I really just don't think I need to upgrade to it just to get a Steelbook. It's not a necessity for me. So I'm still picky with what I get. But if I have the option of a movie that I love, I'll usually go Steelbook unless it's like Scream Factory. I don't do the Scream Factory steels because that's a whole nother animal, altogether.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Number 9.
Let's go 39.
All right. What are your hopes for 2023?
2023. Obviously to my friends and family, myself, stay healthy. I mean, that's the first one. When it comes to business and, fun, I just hope to be able to still maintain everything, have time with my family, have time to do this, have some financial freedom as far as just with work and stuff like that. Like that's always been my goal. Is I love what I do, but there's other things that I like too. Like I want to have time to go places, to do things, to, do this kind of stuff. So I'm just hoping for just some, I guess, I don't know, a lot of balance. I think balance is the biggest thing. So health first and then balance second, I think. Cool. That's from a personal standpoint, I think, when it comes to the next year or so.
Sure. Let's see. Number 10.
Let's go 48.
Okay. Have you read any good books lately?
No, I'm a terrible reader. Not bad at reading, but like it goes back to a lot of things. Like I want to do things and I want to put more on my plate, and I just don't have like the capacity to do it. Like I said, family, coaching, my little fitness business on the side, YouTube, trying to really, make sure my quality and quantity is good, working out myself and doing like, it's hard to just find time. So things like video games is another one. Like forever, I've been like, I want to be a gamer and I'll buy stuff, but I'll never play it. Yeah. And the same thing with books. Like I want to read and I'll buy the books with all of the attention to do it. And then I just never find time to sit down. And in my head, I'm like, someday I'll get to it. And man, I don't know when that someday is, but I'm going to have a lot of stuff to read. Like I got those Halloween, like the making of there, those books. I've got the Lost Boys book. I've got all those like hardcover books that they were putting out for a bit on all these different movies that I would love to just dive into, but I haven't. So man, I don't know. I don't know what the last book I read from front to back was, but it's something I want to do. Like I said, it someday.
Definitely. You mentioned gaming. I bought that Evil Dead game, and I think I walked around with Ash for 5 minutes, and that's all I've done on it. So
That's ditto, man. Ditto. It's exact. I loved Friday 13th. I was addicted to it. I was playing with, friends online. Like me and Piz were playing at night. Like we had a lot of fun with Friday 13th, and I was really bummed when that just got like totally gaboshed or whatever. Like we were ready to get Uber Jason and all this stuff, and they just kind of canceled it all because of the lawsuit going on. It really just took the wind out of the sails. And when Evil Dead was announced, I was like, oh my God, like, okay, we're going to do this now. We're going to do it. And then I played it for like 10 minutes, like on like a walkthrough by myself, just to kind of get used to the buttons. And then it doesn't seem like many people are playing. So I don't have anybody to play with. And the last thing I want to do is go online and play with strangers, because that's it's a nightmare if you try to do that. If you're not a gamer, number one, you're going to get smoked real easy. And then people get pissed, like if you're not that good. And I'm just like, I'd rather play with friends, because I'm not going to go there to strangers. But so yeah, I haven't played at all. 10 minutes. I walked around and did like that, like little beginner level just to try the buttons. And that's it. I mean, I'm hoping Texas Chainsaw will bring everybody to the yard, because I'm really excited for that one. More excited than I was Evil Dead. And Evil Dead could be awesome, but I don't know anybody that's really playing it.
Got the Killer Clowns game coming too, so
I saw that as well.
Interesting. So
you know what? Like, do you play anything at all? Like the problem with Evil Dead and all that stuff is I feel like those are games you have to play with other people. So to me, it's like a waste. But I have played like Until Dawn, and I just got The Quarry, which I can sit down and play, but I've rarely played. I've probably played like an hour of it total. But it's cool. It's a great game.
Yeah, I've always been more actually like a sports game player. So I got the Madden. I've been playing that, and I'll play like the MLB game and stuff. But yeah, I tried like first person way back in the day. It was like Call of Duty or some crap, and I just kept going up and down off this truck, and I wanted to puke. So I'm like, I'm done with this. So.
I can't play a lot of those games either. I like Halo and all that. Like I tried to play those once, and I'm like, man, I took too much time off. Like I don't even know what's happening here. I went from like playing Sega Saturn to like, Xbox 360. It was like just such a game changer at the time. I couldn't get used to it,
Go from like 6 buttons to 42.
Basically. I was like, man, I thought Metal Gear was Solid was like the tough game or whatever. Like, yeah, this was nuts. But yeah. All right, let's go let's go 50.
Okay. Let's see. What's something you would wait in line for?
Jamie Gertz's autograph. I would wait. It's a bucket list item for me, man. I have a Lost Boys poster with everybody on it, basically, except for like her. Yeah. And she's like that white whale where I'm like, man, I would love to meet Jamie Gertz. And it doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen, but if it ever did, I would be there with that poster in hand, and I'll wait in whatever line she's got to get her. And, we could go back and talk about conventions and stuff all day, because the lines and conventions now, I am so glad I got a lot of this stuff out of the way when I did, because it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm headed to one in October, Scarefest.
I think everybody's going to that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about even trying to get a ticket. I'm like, man, like everybody's going to be there. I'm like, should I just try to fly down there? But I have a chiller convention I'm going to, I think the week after, and there's no way I'm going to be able to pull them both off. But it sounds like a blast, especially because everybody's going to be around.
Yeah, it's I think I'm sharing a room with Jay the Stingray and Christian Hanna. And that'll be Jay and I are going to try to outsnore each other, so that'll be something fun.
Dude, that's sweet, man. Wow.
Alrighty. Awesome. Number 12.
Let's do 76.
All right. The year of my birth.
Woo!
So we know horror is one, but what other genres of movies do you like?
Love 80s action and 80s comedies. 80s and 90s, I think. Those two are probably my next two, right after horror. I'm trying to think. Yeah, yeah, I would say that is probably my favorite too. So like things like, the Schwarzenegger stuff, I was huge on, still am. Obviously Stallone as well. I love like 80s, 90s martial art movies, like those ones that, when Bloodsport hit hard and then all of a sudden like everybody was putting stuff out. Like you've got ones with Billy Blanks, you've got Jim Cotta, you've got all these like crazy ones. No Retreat, No Surrender. Like I love all that stuff. Miami Connection, love it. And then comedies, like all the Hughes stuff, I love all that kind of stuff. And those are all kind of my favorites too.
Awesome. Let's see, number 13.
Let's go 13.
Okay.
See what you're gonna get me with here.
Who is your favorite actress?
Woo! Damn, man. I don't have like favorites. Like but there are certain people, like this is even actors as well, but there are certain people where I always will be like, well, if they're in it, I'll get the movie or I'll watch the movie. Not that they're like the greatest, but I'm gonna go through a couple ties. So like I think the older Elizabeth Shue was always somebody that no matter what she was in, I'm like, I'm buying it or I'm going to watch it because I loved Elizabeth Shue growing up. That's one that I'll always watch something that she's in. I'd always watch something Linda Blair is in. I would at least back then. Like I even like I love like Roller Boogie. That was a big one with her. I loved. Was it what's the one they just came out with there? Not Season of the Witch. The other one there. Wes Craven did one with her with like a horse. I think they just came out with it. Vinegar Syndrome just came out with it, but it was a cool one as well. Like I was big on anything Linda Blair, Savage Streets, obviously. But what's funny is now like Scout Taylor Compton, man, is like somebody that I'll always watch her stuff, and I don't know what it is. I mean, well, she's good looking as hell, but it's just something about her. I don't know what it is. I'm always going after her stuff, like. And I'm not even the biggest Halloween 2 fan. I like Rob Zombie's Halloween. I know that's not the popular thing to say, but I didn't really care for Rob Zombie's 2, but I always thought her and Danielle and they all did a great job. I just didn't really care for the movie. But yeah, it's always something like that. If you look at my DVD collection, I have like a whole like Scout Taylor Compton section like in there. And it's just kind of a weird person to have. Yeah. But I don't know a lot of current stuff. People ask me all the time, like, man, I am so in a bubble when it comes to certain things. Like all these people, like these current hip hop artists and stuff, I wouldn't know them in a hole in the wall if they came. And it really is starting to show my age. Yeah. Like who's the big one? Cardi B. If she walked into my house right now, I would have no idea who she was. I would have zero. I don't know what she looks like. I have no idea. I've heard the name. I've never looked her up or anything like that. I have no clue.
Well, apparently we'd be impressed if she walked through. I don't know.
It's crazy, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just like I live in my own bubble or I just could care less. Like it really is so odd because I hear that name all the time and people, there'll be a song on the radio at work and people will be like, oh, do you know who this is? I'm like, I have no idea who this is.
I've noticed too, every song on the radio now has about 14 people that are a part of it. So I'm like, well, who's the main guy? I don't know.
Right. Well, and you know what is sad too is dude, like rock music is like dead. It's gone. Like how can that even be a thing? It's like in where I live, it's country and hip hop basically.
Yeah.
Country's basically taken over. Yeah, country's basically taken over for rock. When I was a kid, I don't know if it's different where you live, but when I was a kid, it was almost like you got made fun of if you liked country music, basically. They're going, you like country, huh? And it's like now there is no heavy metal, there is no like rock, especially in the mainstream. I'm like, you can dig deep and find stuff, but it's not like it was, man.
These hillbillies around here always like country, so I grew up in like the cornfields, so but it was never my thing, to be honest. But I'm glad you mentioned Elizabeth Shue. I just watched Cocktail the other night.
Oh, love it.
It's a great one.
Cocktail. You know what I will say too? I will say, and maybe this is a question later, but I'm not going to say it's my favorite, but man, people give Tom Cruise a lot of shit, like for his beliefs or whatever, but man, it's hard to name a movie that he doesn't just kill it. And like from then till now, like I look around at my collection. I'm like, man, like all his movies are freaking great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
For sure. All right. 14.
Let's go 81.
All right. Who was your best friend growing up, and why do you think you connected with them?
Yeah. So my best friend growing up was this kid, Mark. We met in 7th grade. He had just moved to town. He's kind of the new kid in school. And I think what really brought us together was the love of wrestling. I think that's really what got us to be really close. And then we were really into like, heavy metal and hardcore music. And, we were just very connected at the hip until basically college. Like we were very, very close on all that kind of stuff. Video games. I mean, it was a lot of good memories, man. We had like backyard wrestling federations. We used to record it on like a trampoline and stuff like that. Like we just did so much cool stuff. BMX biking we would do all the time. And man, just some cool stuff. And I'm sure you remember back then in like the 80s and 90s, like, you'd sleep over a friend's house, you'd be eating pizza like all night long. You just kind of pass out wherever. I can remember like waking up in the middle of the night, MTV would be on, and I'd be like, what is this? What's this song? And I'd have to write it down because it was like 2 a.m. And then the next day we'd go to Circuit City and we'd try to find the album. It was just some cool stuff that happened back then. So growing up, I'm going to say Mark until about college. And then my friend Mike from college on, and kind of the same thing. I met this kid, Mike, at work, and wrestling kind of was what brought us together. Wrestling. And then he likes horror movies and stuff like that. So I'm going to say those are my 2 best friends growing up from like middle school to college, and then from college on till now.
Awesome. I miss those old sleepovers, We used to go, we had this friend that we would kind of torment. We would go out, and he had this hobby of like camping out in a tent in his yard. And we went one night and just put these huge firecrackers all the way around it and like lit them and just blew up his tent at 4 a.m. So.
And the thing was, it was all kind of like rite of passage stuff back then.
Yes.
Like nowadays, like you could never get away with anything like that. You know what else I always talk about? And I don't know if you feel the same way. Growing up, I lived in like the suburbs. I lived in like a neighborhood, like with like tons of houses, tons of kids around my age. And every Friday night, it felt for years, we used to all meet up down at the bottom of the neighborhood where there was like this patch of woods, and we do manhunt. And it was like, hey, neighborhood is the boundaries. Like you can go anywhere. So everywhere there's a main road, like you can't go past that. So we had a lot of playing field to play in the middle of the night. Yeah. And man, we were hiding in like neighbors' bushes and all this other stuff. And like, then when we get like at the end of the night, we'd go in like, there was this one yard that was like really big. We'd all lay in the yard and just like talk until about like 11:30 at night. And then we'd all just get on our bikes and go home. And this was like probably pre-teens or teenage years. And we did this for a long, long time. And I look at it now and I said, man, if I was to look out my window and see teenagers hiding in my bushes, like the cops would be called in like 2 seconds or something. Like back then, like nobody gave a shit really. Like as a kid, you don't think about it, but like nobody ever called the cops. Like we were literally like running through people's yards, getting chased by like those kids. And I just feel like if it happened now around here, it's like it wouldn't fly for like a second.
Well, the other side of that, I would be out like all night in the summer. And now as a parent, I'm thinking, what the hell is my mom thinking?
Right.
My kids aren't going out all night.
It is crazy how things have changed. Not only just, I think, the sign of times, but maybe just, being in that parent role. Because I feel the same way. There was times where, I'd go with my friends and we would just drive off to concerts and like, in the city and just go there and get home at all hours of the night, and I was like a teenager, late teen at that point. But you're right. Things are definitely different now. And I don't think it's for the better, to be quite honest with you, because we turned out all right. We turned out fine.
I got to say, maybe this is just my outlook on things, but I think our generation was the last good generation. But,
I agree. I agree, because we were like that weird era where like everything was coming out. So we got to, we saw both, right? Like we lived through, I think really it's what it is. As soon as like cell phones and internet and all that came out, like that changed everything. It really did. Like even kids now, like I'm, you know, I don't know how old your kids are, but my son's 3. So, you know, thinking about him in school and stuff, it's just so different. Like you you could never bully somebody in school, but all the bullying happens when you come home where it's supposed to be like your safe space, you know.
Right.
If you're getting bullied in school, it was like, oh shit, I just got to get through this 6 hours, then I'm good to go for the weekend. Where now it's like it never ends because you got social media and phones and Snapchats and whatever the heck they want to do. It's like you can always be there. And man, I just think it's hard for kids now. And I can understand why kids have trouble because like imagine looking on the computer and seeing like all your friends hanging out and you weren't invited, right? Like that must suck.
Well, it's such a different time now, and not to get too dark, but I never once thought about someone bringing a gun to school when I was a kid, and I was scared that we were going to have a fire drill, you know, and I was going to have to hear that. So it's just, it's a tough time for kids, I think. So
definitely, I was you know, I was in high school when Columbine happened, so like of course it was like a little bit of a culture shock at the time.
Right.
But yeah, like it's very different. I mean, I don't know, man. In a world where I feel like bullying and all that other stuff is looked at or is even more focused on. Like remember when there's all these campaigns like Be a Star, anti-bullying and all that stuff. Yeah. You'd figure it'd be heading in the right direction. I think it's just headed in a different direction where back then it was like it was so much more kind of accepted, but it didn't escalate, I think, to where it does now, you know?
Yeah, so, definitely. I agree with that. All right, we'll get out of the bad news and
get out of the weeds.
Yeah, number 15.
All right, let's go Michael Jordan, hit the 23 on this one.
All right. This is a interesting question. It's kind of a two-parter. To what physical media company would you write a letter of admiration, and which company would you send a letter of complaint?
All right. Well, the complaint is Scream Factory. We all know that. And it sucks to say, man, because I've been like a Scream Factory, I don't even know what you'd call it, like fanboy since the day they were announced. Like,
sure.
I bought everything for years and years and years. I just think at this point, it just seems like they're not trying to stay at the top. It's almost like they know they're at the top, or they still feel like they're at the top, and they're just giving us like, oh, well, they'll like it no matter what happens because we're Scream Factory. That's the attitude that I feel like is going on now. And we've noticed it with a lot of the product, you know, like it just seems like they know the market is the collectors, and they're like, well, we're just going to give them what they want, but we don't really care the quality. We don't care about if there's something wrong, or just throw it out there. It's a title's a title. And I just feel like the pride is not there anymore. Yeah. And that's what really bums me out, I think, about the whole thing. And it just doesn't seem like they care either. And that's another thing that bums me out. As far as the admiration, I'd probably have to go Vinegar Syndrome. And you know what? Like Vinegar Syndrome, to me, like they don't put out the greatest stuff. Like, you know, it's not quality movies like you're getting from Scream Factory, but you can tell that they're putting their heart and soul into every one of these releases on stuff that shouldn't even have that much, you know, that much product or that much heart put into it. Like, and they're making these no-name movies feel important. And I think that's a real interesting yet hard thing to do, that they've really captured the fact that you can sell a Vinegar Syndrome slipcover for over $50 is telling you something. And I would give props to Arrow if I can pick a second one, just because I feel like Arrow is always, I'm going to say, they stay consistent, and they've always kind of, they do a little bit better on certain things, a little bit better here and there. They test the waters. Because I said it before, but Eric's Revenge, Phantom of the Mall, was like a real eye opener for me with them, because it was, I wish they did more like that. Like, I wish that they would take some of these movies and just give them that big box treatment, and with the lobby cards and all this extra footage and different, you know, there's more movies out there that they've put out that I wish got that treatment, like a Hell High or whatever. Like, I wish they would have spiced that up a little bit more. Yeah. And it would have made it feel like a bigger deal, because it was a pretty good movie. So that's what I would do with them. And it's cool to see them getting things like, you know, Wild Things and True Romance, things that I think the horror community kind of accepts as one of their own. and they kind of give it a little bit of love on the arrow line. But I think all in all, Vinegar Syndrome probably is the one I'd write to, just because they made chicken salad out of chicken shit, really. And they run with it and they hype stuff, and they just know the market, and it's crazy of what they're doing and how much they're selling with the product they're putting out.
Yeah. I'll throw a little shout out to Kino too. I think they do a great job as well, especially when they have sales. They actually have a sale.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Kino does a great job. I think that quality movies. I've said this before. It's like, that's the one company I would blind buy from, because I feel like they've got so many hidden gems in that line. Like, I've found many of them. I think the only thing I would say about Kino, and I don't want them to change because I like the aesthetic of everything looking the same on the spines. It's Kino. Right. I don't need them to get fancier, but I think Vinegar Syndrome to me had the edge just because of you get the hard boxes, you get this, you get that. Kino just keeps it straight and simple. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is if they do it that way and they can keep their prices half of what these other companies are charging them, then I'll take it.
Yeah, definitely. All right. 16.
All right, let's go Ken Griffey Jr. Let's go 24.
All right. What words or phrases do you think are overused?
Damn. Masterpiece is one, I would say.
Okay.
I think that's an overused thing, especially in the world that we live in now. I feel that everything is considered a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I think we're just I don't know what it is. Even with wrestling now, like the people come out and be like, "Oh my God, that was like the best thing ever," and we just accept things that are like decent as like amazing, just because I don't think we're getting the quality anymore that we used to. So everything that's like okay becomes, the bar gets higher, I think. So that's the one thing I would say. Other words that people say that's overrated. I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's anything that rubs me the wrong way or irks me. I'm not sure, man. What do you think? Is there anything that you can pick up right away that you're like, people say this all the time?
Well, I don't think everything that is described as woke is woke. That's one thing. Not everything is epic.
Epic.
But it's funny you were talking about wrestling. There's so many AEW fanboys, which they're fine and everything, but I don't remember one thing they've done. There's so much stuff from like the Attitude Era that it's just memories that I have from that era. So
I agree. I mean, me. We're both of us. We're huge wrestling fans. I haven't really watched AEW. Like it didn't hook me the way it hooked other people, and a lot of people are surprised that it didn't. But I don't know. I couldn't get into it, and I think that, in my opinion, is that they just got to be very careful, because I still listen to stuff, I still read stuff, but AEW is probably on a hot streak right now, but if they're not careful, I just feel like it's going to go in the WCW route where it's going to implode, because it seems like the guy who's running the show is kind of more of a fan than he is like a boss, I guess. And it seems like a lot of people inside are getting upset because he's really favoring. It's basically just going to look like Raw from like 10 years ago by the end of the day. Yeah. And they just have so much talent. It's like people always like, oh, this guy just signed. I'm like, how much money do they have? And like, where are these guys going to go? Like, they literally have like 2 rosters or whatever of talent. I have no idea like how everybody's going to be a star over there. No. But hey, I mean, if people are watching it, great. I think they even may have an event tonight, because I was getting some texts from people talking about it. But and the same thing with WWE. Like, I haven't watched it since 2020. And I will say I've kind of started to check it out again because Triple H took over, and I've been hearing like a lot of good things. And I watched the event this weekend in London or in the UK, and I thought it was actually one of the better WWE events I've seen in many years. Yeah. And you can kind of see that like there is somebody else behind the scenes doing stuff, because it has a different feel to it. It's got, old school feel. And they're saying now that the WWE backstage is the best it's been since the Attitude Era. And a lot of people are almost like, shit, I wish I didn't jump the gun and leave if I knew this was going to happen in like a month or so. So it's good to see that they're starting to make a little bit of a comeback, and then we can really see a nice little challenge between them and AEW when they're strong, because WWE was disintegrating week in and week out. They were firing like 30 people. It was getting bad. So I'm glad they made a change, because I think that it was something that company needed, or it would have probably been gone in the next year.
Yeah, and I don't want to see that. I will always be a WWE guy. That's just childhood for me. So that's who I watched pretty much. So
yep, I agree.
So all right, number 17.
Let's go. We haven't done anything in the hundreds yet. Let's go 110.
Okay. Where's my mouse? There it is. What are your Halloween night must-watch movies?
Ooh. All right. Fog is one. I just recently talked about it in a video. That's always been one. Fright Night is always around the Halloween time. Halloween 1 and 2 is always one that I try to grab. I want to watch both of them. Halloween 2 was a staple when I was a kid, so I definitely check that out every year. I'm trying to think. What's funny is I always end up watching Garfield Halloween still, which I've been watching since I was like a little kid. And I'm hopefully looking forward to maybe showing my son this year that one. Trying to think what else. Salem's Lot is another one I'll always watch around Halloween time. And then I always try to watch like something newer that I maybe haven't seen or anything like that. Those are the big ones for me that I'll usually try to watch on Halloween night or that weekend if possible.
Cool. But last year I think I bought a DVD that's got like all the Roseanne Halloween episodes on it. So
I have that one.
That
Hell yeah.
year.
Oh, dude, that's the Anchor Bay one. That's a freaking great one. And yeah, you're right. Like those, when we were kids, man, like you looked forward to that every year. Between that, Simpsons did a cool one, and then this is one that people don't talk about, but Home Improvement always did a real badass Halloween episode. And I don't know if that's something that you can get all those episodes, but they always knocked it out of the park as well with their Halloween episodes.
Nice. All right, 18.
Let's do 112.
Okay. What is the most stressful TV show or movie you've ever watched?
Ebola syndrome? No. No, I'm just kidding. It was something recently that I watched, and I was pretty stressed out over it. What the hell was it? I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. And I know there's like so much stuff out there. People always ask me, have you seen this? Have you seen that? But I rarely watch anything. Let me try to think. You know what? I'm going to say, if I have to say a movie, and this is more now than when I saw it the first time, was the Blair Witch stresses me out. The first one, the Blair Witch Project, stresses me out. It's always like something I want to watch, but I have trouble getting through it because it really stresses me out. But when I saw it in the theater as like a teenager, I was kind of like, I don't see what the big deal was. That was kind of stupid. But as the years went on, the more I thought about it and the more I watched it, I was like, I can't barely get through this thing. As soon as those kids start shaking that tent in the middle of the woods, I'm like, oh, this is not going to go good here. But that's definitely one that did. But there was something recently that I watched and I felt that it was getting stressing me out a little bit. But now I don't remember what it was. Shit.
I'll throw one out to you.
Sure, man.
I don't know if you've seen this. It's a few years old now, but it's a movie with Robert Pattinson called Good Time.
Oh yeah. That was a great one.
That one had me on the edge of my seat the whole time. So
definitely a good one, man, for sure.
So, yeah. All right. Number 19.
All right, let's go 130.
Okay. Do you think the private lives of famous people should be off limits?
I'd say yeah. Off limits. I mean, yeah, I'd say yeah. I mean, I'm just coming from a personal standpoint. Like, I don't give a shit about anything going on outside of me watching them on screen. So, in my opinion, it's like, yeah, sure. Like, let them do their thing, and their job is their job, and it is what it is. Because I just have no interest in it personally. But I know there's other people that really get off on that kind of stuff. So, for me, I would say yeah, just let them live.
Okay. 20.
Let's do I already number 5?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
All right. Well, we went through actors, and you can name a couple here, but who's your favorite actor?
Oh, actor. Not the greatest actor, but when it comes to anything, I'm always about Corey Haim. So I'll
Sure.
say that he's not the greatest, but I love his stuff. Again, Tom Cruise is not my favorite or anything like that, but I just feel like he's solid when it comes to what he does. Looking around here and trying to think. Interesting actor. Man, it's such an interesting thing because, like, I'm sure people have their favorite actor. I'm going to say if I had a favorite actor, it's going to be Arnold. It's got to be. Because, yeah, he was just growing up. It was like everything that he was in, I needed to see. So if I had to pick one person, I'd probably say Arnold Schwarzenegger was my favorite.
Solid choice. We got 5 to go. Number 21.
Let's do 44.
Okay. What tech tools play the biggest role in your life?
Technology?
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be my phone. It has to be all together. I mean, I do everything on my phone. I'm recording on my phone right now. So I don't have a camera. This is all through phone that I'm doing right now. I do all my editing for my videos on a phone. I do a lot of my programming for work I do on my phone. Yeah, man, contacting people, emails, like everything is on my phone because my type of work, I'm always on my feet. So it's not many times I can sit down at a desk for a long period of time to set up shop or whatever. So everything I have to do fast, it's going to be on that phone.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing. People used to do business without one.
I know. Think about that. It's crazy, right?
Yeah. Number 22.
Let's go 60.
Okay. Are there any moments from your past you wish you could return to?
Oh man, so many. I mean, I think childhood in general, if I had to pinpoint a time, I don't know, man. Like I would love to I wouldn't even say I'd love to live a day like at like 8 years old or whatever, but because I'd want to stay there. I feel like I had a great childhood growing up. Lived in the suburbs. My parents are still together. I had a brother. We had a dog. Great neighborhood. It was just so many memories of just the regular everyday stuff that I feel like people take for granted now, or that doesn't happen. Like, I mean, a rundown of like a day at my house was my mom woke us up in the morning. We ate breakfast. We got off to school, had fun at school, got home, rode bikes, played baseball, did this, went to eat dinner, got done dinner. My dad came outside, played catch with us for an hour, like sat down as a family and watched the TV shows of the day or the night or whatever. And then we all went to bed. Like that was like a normal, like school day for us, like on a regular basis. And then the weekends was just like either sleepovers or, like I said, going into the woods and playing manhunt. Like, man, it was just, I can't pinpoint a time, but I mean, I think any time probably until I could drive is probably what I'd want to go back to.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So, number 23.
Let's go 84.
Okay. How long should a movie be, and how long is too long?
I'm always good with like an hour and a half. Is probably a good marker for me. I think once you get over like that 2 hour mark, sometimes it can get a little bit tiring. Luckily, there hasn't been anything that I've watched recently that I felt really dragged, which is a good thing. Like, I don't know how long Nope was. I'm assuming it was probably long, but it didn't feel that long to me.
No.
But I don't watch Marvel movies or anything like that. So a lot of those long ones, like I don't really watch them. So for me, good hour and 30 is fine. But at the same time, like it all depends. I think if I saw a movie for an hour and 30 and I felt like I didn't get enough out of it, I would have probably wanted to get longer. So I would say an hour 30, but at the same time, like you need to be able to get everything in that you want to, tell that story with.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know it was long, but I'm not sure how long Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was, but I still wanted more when it was over. So,
yeah, man. What a great movie that was. And I didn't
Yes.
realize either how long that was.
Yeah, it had to be over 2.5,
But if you're invested in something, like the length doesn't bother me too much. Like,
No.
for instance, I absolutely love Salem's Lot. And to me, when I'm watching it, I feel like it's freaking long as hell. I don't know how long that movie is, but I mean, I know it was like a 2-part miniseries, but you feel like it's long, but I'm never like, let's get this over with. I'm more or less like, I'm intrigued here.
right.
And the same thing with, did you watch Midnight Mass?
I didn't watch that, no.
Really, really cool. And I keep saying, like, man, I would love for them to release it on physical media as like a single movie because it's like 7 parts. And I think each part is probably, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes or something. But I'd sit there and watch the whole damn thing. Obviously if I had to pause it or turn it back on, but I think it's one of those things that I would love to see it without any cuts, like from beginning to end. But it was just quality stuff. That's why. But I would say if I had to guess, probably like an hour and a half.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of talking, especially in the horror community, about this Terrifier 2 that's going to be 2.5 hours long, which that's a lot of people are shaking
I don't
their head
know
about that one.
I don't know what you're going to do with Terrifier 2 for 2.5 hours because the first one to me, like, I know that gets a lot of hype. I actually didn't care for the first one that much.
No.
So I don't have any real, like, reason to watch this unless people come out and say, like, it was, the best thing since sliced bread. Maybe I'll check it out, but I'm not rushing to see this thing because I really could have came or went with the first one.
Sure. 24.
Let's go 75.
All right. What do you think is the most important moment in American history? Start of Vinegar Syndrome.
Yeah, I'm not good at history and all this stuff. Let's see. What the hell? Man, they're gonna kill me for this. I don't even think about any of that stuff. I have no idea.
Okay.
No clue. Can we pick another one?
Sure.
I told you I live in a bubble, man. I don't know, 70.
He's like
73.
the Vince McMahon of horror.
Basically.
What's your all-time favorite movie villain and why?
I mean, as much as I said, like, I love Jason the best, I mean, I'd say Jason is probably like my favorite, but again, at the same time, I look at that and I'm like, well, is he even a villain? Like, he is, but at the same time, it's like everybody just loves him. I don't know. Nothing else really stands out to me. Like I said, I don't watch a lot of, things with villains unless it's like a horror related item. And I'm trying to think of somebody that stood the test of time that's still around. I'll go back into this. Then I'm going to say, I thought, shit, man. So many. I would look at Jerry Dandridge from Chris Sarandon in Fright Night. It's like he's amazing to me. Like, he's so good at that role that I would have been like, man, if this dude played Dracula in all those movies, I would have bought it. Like, he just did such a great job. as that character. So I know that's not probably a fan favorite in the sense where people are probably like, oh my God, there's about 1,000 other better ones than that. But Fright Night is a real important movie to me. So, I mean, he's up there for sure, but nobody I can think of off the top of my head besides your main, Freddy's and Jason and Michael Myers and stuff like that.
And I totally get where you're coming from because they almost become they're almost like the anti-hero these days,
Right.
The movies are about them. One I always went with is kind of Angus Scrimm from Phantasm.
Oh, dude, that's a perfect one. Thank you. I love Phantasm. It's one of my favorites. He was excellent, man. He was believable. It was so different.
And
when I saw that,
you're definitely rooting for the guys to beat him too. So,
oh yeah, I think you hit that right on the head, man. I can't believe that just didn't come to me. When it really dawned on me on how important that movie was, or not important, but how different it was that scene where they showed him pick up the coffin by himself. Like,
yeah,
I can remember seeing that for the first time and being like, holy shit. And my brother sitting there, he's like, what? And I'm like, dude, he just lifted that up by himself. And he's like, yeah. So, and he's like, oh yeah, shit. Like, it's just, if you don't catch it, you don't catch it. Cause it's just the way they did it was kind of cool. But yeah, that's a great answer, man. Great.
Those movies always intrigue me because I've always had this thing about like the funeral home and stuff that always kind of creep me out. And I don't feel like there's enough funeral home based horror. So
I agree. Great vibes. It's got a great. There's certain movies that to me are comfort movies, and Phantasm's one. It's just got a great vibe to it. I don't know what it is. Salem's Lot has that similar vibe to me. But yeah, I love Phantasm.
Yeah. Okay, final question. What you
got? 19 still around?
I believe so. Let's see what it is. Here we go. We asked you the 4K. Do you remember the first Blu-ray you bought?
Let's see. Man, you know what? I don't. I'm thinking it was... I think it was Lost Boys, actually. I'm pretty sure. It was either Lost Boys or I think House of a Thousand Corpses. It's probably one of those two that I bought first, I believe.
Okay.
And to be honest, they were two movies, in my opinion, that came out really early in the Blu-ray release days, and they still hold up big time. House of a Thousand Corpses looks amazing on Blu-ray. For a movie that came out on Blu-ray like right when the format hit. And the same thing with Lost Boys. I can remember buying that, and it had to have been one of the first ones because I was so blown away by how much different it felt and looked on that screen from the DVDs. I remember sitting there and looking at it. I'm like, am I like is there something wrong with like the settings or something like that? Like it felt like I was there. Like it was so odd. So I'm hoping that gives us promise for the 4K to look even better, because Lost Boys was such a good transfer. But I'm going to say it was definitely one of those two because I can remember being so blown away thinking that my settings were off because these movies just looked so different than I remember ever seeing them.
Awesome. Well, that's it. You made it. 25 questions.
Man, they were all good, but that one when we started talking about history and stuff like that, man. Well, I don't know that.
History. I didn't know this was America.
Jesus, man, I'm a fitness guy. Fitness and movies, man. I don't know anything else. I just get through the day.
He's in the 80s bubble. So.
In the bubble. But yeah, man, no, this was cool, man. It was awesome.
Well, glad to have you. Finally got you in here, and we got Pack Week in the books. I'm
glad we could take over your channel for a week. That was nice.
It's been a fun week. So,
everybody.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, you seem a lot more rad from hanging out with all of us. So that's a good thing,
I had tried to get my rad shirts for every episode. So
I love it.
Yes.
Everybody goes a little rad sometimes.
Well, obviously, except Uncle Bill. He tries.
He tries.
But no, I want to thank you again for being on, and everybody check down the description of this video for a link to Garrett's channel, Born2BeRad. Make sure you go over there and subscribe if you haven't. And if you haven't, why the hell haven't you? So that's all I can say about that. So, and Smores Indoors, if you're here for the first time, hope you check out some of the content we got. We got some pretty awesome interviews. I think that's one of the better things we do on the channel. So seek those out. We do some other weird stuff here, but you can check that out too. And
like what?
We've done 4 porn star tournaments, I think. So
The tournament.
that's what happens when you have Dan Shine on your channel too much. So.
You're giving him too much creative control. Is that what it is?
Apparently. I'm going to start having Boone the baboon on instead of Dan to see what happens.
Just have like that thing in like a little square on like one of the screens.
Right.
That'd be so killer, dude. That's funny.
I'll just have chimp noises in the background. But yeah, if you're new here, please subscribe, watch some videos. Hope you like some of them, and stick around for more to come. So, especially more of these videos. We got some more collectors in the wings that are going to be on the channel soon. So, but until that, once again, thanks, Garrett, for being on.
You're welcome, man.
And
Thank you.
Until next time, everybody, take it easy.